Thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is James McCarty. I am the Associate Director of Admission here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. And I would like to kick things off today just by saying congratulations. I think it's an exciting first step in pursuing furthering your education. And in many cases, the first step can be the hardest. So I want to congratulate all of you for being here with us today to take that first step to continue your education, ideally with us at Johns Hopkins. Again, today's program will highlight the Master's of Science in Counseling degree. And just before we jump in to get things started, just some housekeeping items. As far as today's program goes, the presentation will be recorded, and we'll send a follow-up recording to everyone who's attended today, generally about a week after the program concludes. So keep an eye on your email for that recording. As many of you have already done, you can see that we are utilizing the Q&A function. We are going to hold all questions until the very end. We'll have a Q&A session at the very end, but please, as we go through today, if any questions arise, feel free to insert those questions in the Q&A, and we'll be happy to answer those at the end of our program today. You can see on your screen just a brief agenda. We will be talking about the counseling program, the curriculum, some opportunities. We'll hear from a few of our faculty members from the program, as well as some current students. And then I'll round things out with an overview of the admissions process. And then again, that Q&A finalizing everything. So jumping in before I pass things off to my faculty colleagues, Johns Hopkins University, we were America's first research institution. And I think that backbone and grounding in research really kind of harnesses and exemplifies a lot of the studies that are happening at Johns Hopkins. This past year, as a university at large, we were ranked the ninth best university in the United States. And again, you'll hear today through our faculty and through our students how that research and the academic prestige that comes with it impacts what our students are learning, both inside the classroom and through those clinical experiences that you'll get as a counseling student. As you can see, just from some of the fast facts, our school consists of just under 1,800 students. And again, you can see some of the breakdowns on the screen. We're very proud to say that we have over 24,000 Johns Hopkins School of Education alumni. Jumping in to introduce my colleague faculty presenters today. So first off, we have Dr. Matthew Bonner. He's the faculty lead for the counseling program at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. His scholarly research in peer-reviewed journals has included international students in supervision, Black men and support systems in academia, assessment in counseling, grading rigor, gatekeeping in counselor education, and gatekeeping in counselor education. In regional and national conferences, Dr. Bonner's professional presentations have encompassed topics including ethical issues, spirituality assessments in minority populations, Black men and the professoriate, and spiritual integration in counseling. We also have with us Dr. Anita Young. She is an associate professor in the counseling program. Her research agenda has a twofold strand, using data and accountability strategies to close achievement and opportunity gaps for K-12 students and building leadership capacity for school counselors. Dr. Young has co-authored 2 books, published research in scholarly journals, and served on editorial boards. She has presented at numerous local, state, regional, and national conferences specific to her research interests. And lastly, we have Dr. Nathaniel Brown. He's a lecturer of clinical mental health counseling and the clinical director in the counseling program at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. He teaches graduate students in the counseling master's degree program with a focus on clinical mental health counseling. His research interests include college mental health counseling of students who experienced foster care, counseling theoretical orientation development, HIV and AIDS support groups, foster care, post-secondary education transition, retention, and completion. And without further ado, I'm going to pass things off to my faculty colleagues. And thank you again for being here with us today.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCarty. And just a quick correction for Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown was promoted to assistant professor this year from lecturer, and I know he's very happy about that. And I'm glad to be here with all of you. Thank you for your interest in our program here with Dr. Young to talk about our wonderful counseling program here that has two specialty areas. The areas are clinical mental health counseling, which is one track, and our school counseling track is the other track. We are presently located in the educational building at 2800 North Charles Street. However, we're going to be moving to another location, which is Mount Washington, in the summer of 2024. And it is a beautiful new modern location. The School of Education on 2800 North Charles Street is going to be renovated. So we're going to be there for 2 to 3 years. And if you do get into the program, we'll be spending 2 to 3 years at the Mount Washington campus of Johns Hopkins. So I just want to make sure that people have full disclosure that we're going to be moving out of the educational building. We are right now located on the beautiful Homewood campus. We can move on. So the mission of our program, at the end of the day, we're educating you to be socially just counselors who are able to use empirical, theoretical, and practical frameworks in order to help clients in their growth toward wellness, mental health, career, and in school. We also make sure that we're able to work with different groups of individuals, able to work with groups, able to work with families as well. So what you're getting here is a professional degree, and you are developing a counselor identity in this program. Social justice is really important to us in this program, as we are the home of the broaching model. And that broaching model is all about understanding your biases and what you bring into the counseling room, as well as understanding your clients as cultures. We can move on. So our program sequence for the programs, it's quite long. It's 60 credit programs. That sounds like a lot of time that you would spend in school for a graduate degree. So 60 credits is because you are getting a professional degree in either clinical mental health or school counseling. Other graduate degrees are about 30 credits, but our credit hours are 60 credit hours. And we'll talk about you getting the didactic component of counseling, as well as you're getting out there in the field with the practicum and internship components. So we can move on. So here is what the clinical mental health counseling and school counseling programs look like. They are, like I said before, 60 credits. You would be taking 4 courses in a semester, and those courses involve different areas, such as human development, professional, ethical, and legal orientation, diversity and social justice, career counseling, group counseling, assessment and research. Those are the general areas of counseling. And also, I forgot to mention before that we are accredited by the KCREP accreditation. We have our accreditation as well. So we are a fully accredited program too. And we meet the requirements for the state of Maryland right now. Now, if you go to another state, there are other requirements that we may not offer. For example, in the state of Florida, there is a human sexuality requirement that we do not offer, but you are free to take up to 6 credits at another university to fulfill some requirements too. So that's what our full-time program looks like. And as you can see there, and I know it's small, but as you can see there, there are practicum and internship components. In that practicum component in clinical mental health counseling, you go out to a site and you're at that site for 100 hours in the semester. There's also a class component of that. There is a supervision component that you have at that site. So that's 100 hours in a semester. And for the other 2 semesters for internship in clinical mental health counseling and also in school counseling, those are 600 hours, and you have to see clients as well. So our degree is didactic, where you're learning about those different components of counseling, as well as it's practical, where you get out into the field in practicum and internship. And again, what you're learning is about the profession and developing a professional identity. Okay, we can move on. Other options that we have are the part-time component for those students. We do have some students who are working. And so sometimes for different reasons, even if they may not be working, where they may not have the time, or they may have different kinds of responsibilities where they have to take what we call a part-time sequence. So in that part-time sequence, you would be taking less courses during a semester, and it would take approximately 4 years for you to finish the degree. So we have a full-time component where we have many of our students who are taking about 4 courses during the semester. And we also have the part-time component where students are taking about 2 courses during a semester, depending on their schedule and their time in the program. When you get into the program, you do get an academic advisor who helps you. So when you come into this program, you're coming into a community, and you have an academic advisor who helps you in this community, as well as student affairs, and you have the other professors and instructors to help you in this program. So you just don't get into this program on your own, but there's a student body, you have academic advisors, and you have the administration in the program to help you to have the resources to be successful. Because at the end of the day, we do want you to be socially just counselors. We can move on. So here are some of the electives that are offered presently. I'm not going to read them for you, and we may have other electives when you get here. But in general, our electives involve working with different populations and different interests in counseling. So there are over 400 to 500 theories already in counseling. So you won't be learning everything when you get here, but what you'll be getting is a toolbox for counseling that you can use later. So you're going to be learning models of multiculturalism and models of ethics. That's what you're going to be using. Different models, the broaching model, another diversity model that you can use. And with these models, you're able to access different theoretical frameworks from these basic models of counseling. And that's what you learn here. You don't learn everything, but you do learn enough where you'll be able to, it's like you're going into another country and you're learning to speak the language of counseling. And so these are a few of the electives that we have. We can move on. Dr. Young can talk about a different component of our program, which is the Reset Grant, which we are very happy in receiving $4.7 million for this grant to get more school counseling students with some mental health training out into the field. So I will have Dr. Young to talk about this exciting development.
Dr.
You're on
Young.
mute.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Yes, thank you so very much, Dr. Bonner. We are very excited to be able to share about the Reset Grant Fund course sequence for school counseling students. The Reset initiative stands for Recruit, Educate, Support, Evaluate, and Train. As many of you may know, in the school counseling profession, we are grounded as counselors who are working in educational settings. And because of the pandemic and other such entities such as opportunity and achievement gaps, there is definitely a need for school counselors to begin to address the mental health needs in K-12 schools. This sequence is offered as a full-time accelerated course sequence for approximately 18 months. The courses overlap with the clinical mental health, and other school counseling courses that are offered in our counseling program. You will see that in the first semester, as Dr. Bonner indicated, our fall semester, spring semester of year one, and the projected summer semester courses are all didactic courses where you're able to look at theoretical constructs and to be able to apply them in practical settings. If we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in this concept of the accelerated program, in the school counseling curriculum, there are also 60 credit requirements as well. The one course that's offered as an elective course is the exceptionalities course. The exceptionalities course is not necessarily a requirement for a degree from Hopkins. However, it is a requirement from the Maryland State Department of Education. Therefore, that is the one elective course that occurs. So when we think about the RESET initiative, and you ask, well, how is it different than the school counseling curriculum that Dr. Bonner has previously mentioned? Where it's a twofold initiative. The first one is to ensure that we create a sustainable and systemic pipeline to be able to educate and to hire highly qualified school counselors to be able to address the mental health needs within school settings. And particularly with this grant, we are looking at the research to be able to establish the impact of mental health needs, particularly as a result from the pandemic in urban, suburban, and rural public school districts. So it involves placement during the field experience, where I'm sure Dr. Brown will address further, in either Texas as a suburban school district, Atlanta as an urban school district, or Suffolk, Virginia as a rural school district. So that's kind of the first aspect of the initiative from a graduate training perspective. The second is, in addition to the graduate training, we are also providing additional professional development for current school counselor practitioners who are also working in those urban school districts. And again, it's to be able to really create a systemic pathway to address those mental health needs. Next slide, please. So in this process, we think about two absolute priorities that we have. One, obviously, is to be able to address the mental health issues within school settings, because when we think about the training for school counselors, we train school counselors to provide academic, personal, social, and career counseling. So we want them to be able to look at what mental health issues may be impeding the academic, social, emotional, or career progression of students in school settings. So we're looking also to seek graduate students from diverse backgrounds. We have an active recruitment from HBCUs as well. We also are committed to providing evidence-based strategies, not only in the teaching to the graduate students, but also to the professional development that's offered to the school counseling practitioners. Next slide, please. So with this comes the funding, as Dr. Bonner mentioned. There will be a 50% tuition reimbursement for all students who are part of the RESET initiative. They will be given a computer to use during the graduate studies while at Hopkins. There's an internship cost of living that is approximately $10,000 currently to assist the students when they are placed in the urban, suburban, and rural setting. And then we also have mental health enrichment orientations monthly for the students to be able to look at the data and to determine what are some of those issues that are impeding the academic performance of the students. So it's very unique, as I mentioned. The internship requirement is the last semester of the training experience. Next slide. So we also use an integrated technology approach that's called WellCheck. It is an app that was actually developed by one of Hopkins' doctoral students who is currently a postdoc in the program, and is Dr. Jody Miller. Within the districts, they have the opportunity for these students to use this app to be able to respond to their current evaluation of needs of wellness or mental health issues. So this, we are really excited about it. Some of you might have seen it was recently captured on the news, the local news here in Baltimore City. It has also been a segment on the Today Show. So the Well Check is really that integrative approach so that we are able to connect with the students during all aspects of the school day. And then, of course, there's the professional development offered for the practitioners, where the graduate students also have an opportunity to participate. As Dr. Bonner has referenced, we use the broaching model, which was developed by one of our colleagues, Dr. Norma Day Vines. And we also use school counselor leadership dimensions to help school counselors to understand and to recognize the school counselor leadership dimensions that help to improve the academic success of all students. And as kind of the final area that I would like to focus on is that we have partnered with the American School Counselor Association to provide professional development to the school counseling practitioners and the graduate students who are participating in this program as well. So I'm sure you're wondering, well, in terms of admissions, what might be the difference there? You still must complete the same admission process as all counseling students, which you will hear more about later. But this is just the gist of this exciting and new innovative approach to address the school counseling shortage and needs of school counseling K-12 students. Thank you. And now I shall turn it over to Dr. Brown.
Thank you very much, Dr. Young. I appreciate your assistance and support, and congratulations again on the RESET grant. The clinical experiences starts with practicum. It's a 3-credit-hour class in which students accrue 100 hours in a field experience setting that could be a school or clinical mental health agency. 40 direct hours of individual and group counseling provided to clients is what's required. 60 indirect hours on site and in the JHU supervision course. So that would give you a total of 100 hours. And one of the things that's most important about this experience is understanding that the goal is to integrate theory and practice. We want you to learn what you've learned in the classroom and bring it into practice, or what we may say as application. Starting with case conceptualization, meaning understanding the background, the demographics of your client population, and also treatment planning, and what it means to deliver the services that are needed for the clients that you're going to be serving. Supervision is typically provided by faculty and on-site supervisors. Faculty supervisors are known as university supervisors, and on-site supervisors would be fully licensed clinicians in the community. So that would be in a school setting or also in a clinical mental health counseling agency or organization. And in order for you to move into internship, you have to complete a practicum. So the additional one would be 2 internships. That would be in school counseling and also in clinical mental health counseling. We require 600 hours, which is a total of 6 credit hours over the course of 2 semesters, so 3 for each semester. And what you're doing is you're really, really focusing on being a school counselor in a K-12 public school setting. If you are in a clinical mental health, which you'll see in the next slide, hopefully, the goal again is to complete those 2. So if you could go back 1 slide, just want to finish that last slide. I'm noticing also you can complete the school counseling internship in 1 semester or split it between the 2. I'm seeing the 300 hours, 3 credits each semester. So just want to make sure you understood that aspect of it. Thank you. Next slide. Yeah. In clinical mental health counseling, 600 hours is still the same. One of the things that I can say is that students can also work in a school setting, providing school-based mental health counseling. And that is something that we offer for clinical mental health counseling students too. Again, it's across 2 academic semesters in the fall or the spring. And with that being said, the goal is to complete 600 hours. So 300 for 1 semester, 300 hours for the next semester. Certification and licensure. When students complete practicum and internship, they become eligible for certification and licensure. We are in alignment with the state of Maryland, but we also ask students to think about the state in which they look to practice. To be eligible for certification or licensure, students need to complete the National Counselor examination, or to be able to also obtain the National Counselor certification. Once you complete that exam, that's what you are eligible for at that time. Other areas of specialty would include the NCC for school counselor, or the National Counselor School Certification and Clinical Mental Health Counselor credential. So there's a variety of credentials that you can obtain through our National Board of Certified Counselors. School counseling graduates are eligible for certification as a school counselor in Maryland. Again, you would want to look at the different states because they have different requirements that typically align with CACREP accredited programs. And so you would go to that site you see listed below to look at requirements for all other states. We do offer graduate certificate programs. We offer a postmaster's certificate in clinical mental health counseling. It's 15 credits, and what you would do is you would work with an academic advisor, select the classes that you need. You can opt to complete an internship, but it may not be required. So again, you're going to have to look at some state requirements and meet with your advisor. We also have a postmaster's certificate program, and it's typically designed to help students obtain coursework needed for licensure. So it's twofold in some instances, but you would certainly meet with an academic advisor related to your career goals, and then more specifically look at what state requirements are asking you to complete.
And Dr. Brown, let me add a little bit more to that. We have we call it the PMC certificate, and Dr. Sean Newhart is over that component of our program. So you may get a master's degree from another institution, or you might just have 48 credits on your master's degree. And so you take these courses in order to, like Dr. Brown said, in order to get licensure. Just because you have a master's degree doesn't necessarily mean that you're eligible for licensure. You have to make sure that the courses fit what the licensure board in whatever state that is in, that it fits what the licensure board says with your courses. Your courses have to be consistent and fulfill those requirements. Thus, the reason why we have the postmaster's certificate.
Thank you, Dr. Bonner. And I would also add I noticed a question too. I think people don't always understand that each state gets to determine what licensure looks like for that state. So there's no such thing as what we call reciprocity, but there is such a thing as endorsement. So what tends to put us in a much higher place of having students become licensed postmasters is that we are CACREP accredited. We have 60 credit hours, and we meet the highest standards possible. So I would offer for consideration that the majority of states, when you complete this degree, you're going to be in alignment with what it means to become licensed, but we can't guarantee that because states get to change their regulatory process for who becomes licensed. But you are responsible for checking with that site first, and then you decide on which program would work best for you. Once people are graduated from the program, and if they decide to pursue clinical licensure, people that want to work in clinical mental health counseling can go into private practice at some point, and general and psychiatric hospitals, pain clinics, outpatient clinics, schools, governmental agencies, community agencies. So there's a huge variety of places and spaces where individuals who graduate can work. In school counseling, what you'll see is elementary, middle, and high schools, college career centers, private organizations that are connected to school districts, private schools, charter schools, NGOs, and community organizations. And Dr. Young, would you like to add more about school counseling?
Actually, I think you covered it all. I'd just like to emphasize that the majority of our students are placed in elementary, middle, and high school settings. And really, before they complete the degree, they have contracts that are offered for them. So thank you.
All right. So thank you to my faculty colleagues, Dr. Bonner, Dr. Young, and Dr. Brown. We'll transition ever so slightly to hear from some of our students, but just to, I guess, put it out there for any of our faculty members to, before I transition and introduce our students, to talk about Chi Sigma Iota in any depth. So
Chi Sigma Iota is the honor society for graduates of counseling, for students in counseling. So we have a Chi Sigma Iota chapter here. They are an award-winning chapter, and I believe we're going to have the president of Chi Sigma Iota who's going to talk about the organization. The organization has many opportunities for students to participate in the community. And Chi Sigma Iota has its own faculty advisor, who is Dr. Yiying Zhang. So the faculty advisor facilitates and helps Chi Sigma Iota with communicating with faculty, and we are a supportive community with one another.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bonner. So next, again, we want to transition to hear from some of our current students. So kicking things off, we have Aishwara Jayabharathi. Aishwara is one of our current students in our counseling program. So Aishwara, I'm going to kind of pass the baton off to you. If you can kind of just talk about your experiences as a student and tell us about what it's been like to participate in our counseling program.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you guys can hear me. My name is Aishwarya. I am a third year in the school counseling program, so I'm in my first semester. So I'm currently in that internship part of the courses that they were talking about. I'm probably going to end up repeating a lot of what's been said, but I hope that I can put sort of my personal twist on it and what has actually panned out for me over the past 2 years. So when I was choosing counseling, I was looking at the Hopkins program, and specifically for school counseling, Hopkins has a connection to a range of schools and districts. So I'm currently placed at a middle school. I was placed last semester in an elementary school. Even within the same district, these schools are so different from each other that I am getting a whole range of experiences just from one district. And there are so many districts that people are placed within, all the way to DC and Virginia. And so that was something that I kept in mind while choosing this program. Research opportunities, there was a slide on it, but a lot of our professors are involved in research. Dr. Young's involved in research. I mentioned her because she's my advisor, and she did place me into a research group that I do a lot of research with now. And so I did research in undergrad, and I was really looking for a graduate program where I would be able to do research on the side again. And so Hopkins really stood out for me for that reason. Even if you're not interested in doing research within the School of Ed or within counseling education, I know people who do research within the School of Medicine or anywhere within Hopkins, because you are a Hopkins student, and usually when you reach out to professors, they're willing to hear what you want to do. The 60 credit program was tossed around. And so as a school counseling student, and I think this was one of the questions too, when it comes to being licensed as a mental health counselor, because the program is 60 credits, even though I'll have a credential for school counseling. If I wanted to, I could take the NCE, which was talked about briefly, and also become certified as a mental health counselor. So since I'm currently debating whether to do school-based mental health, which was something that was mentioned as well, that's really useful because I am in a program that will get me that licensure. Often there are 45 credit programs for school counseling that don't allow you to do that. I will note that you can't go the other way around. So you can't be a clinical mental health counseling student and then get your school counseling credential. So just want to put that out there for backing school counseling. For more program highlights, there's a very diverse cohort, both across the nation and across the globe. And so it's very useful, especially in this sort of field, to have discussions where perspectives are so different and you're not just in an echo chamber within your classroom. I'll also say that CSI initiatives and events are very useful. Keenan, who's going to talk next, is the president. I'm going to let him talk more about that. But I do enjoy being part of the board of an organization that tries to supplement our classroom instruction with things such as lectures from various people in the field, as well as social groups. I also wanted to highlight supportive faculty. So I mentioned Dr. Young and others that have really pushed me on this journey and have and I've ended up with opportunities because of conversations with them. I've ended up with more confidence because of conversations with them. And so kind of wanted to highlight that as well. My advice for prospective students is to take advantages of the opportunities provided and don't be afraid to take risks. I actually wrote this last year, so I have a little amendment to that. But before that, I'm from California. I moved across the nation for this. I know that some people are moving across the globe. And so I know that when I came in, my comfort zone was very small. So it was up to me to step out of it, take risks so that I could end up where I wanted to end up with my career. My amendment to this is that equally important and sometimes just as difficult is figuring out your boundaries and your limits. And so, you know, sometimes it's easy to say yes to every opportunity that comes by, but figuring out which ones are really useful for your journey and which ones you have the capacity for is also equally important. So that was it for me. I'm going to pass it on to Keenan, who will talk more about the clinical mental health side.
Hi, everyone. So once again, I'm Keenan, to be here. So the program track that I'm in is clinical mental health counseling. And a big part of that is that it's outside of the school setting. So a lot of our work is in that private practice space or in hospitals. So a lot of it is in a separate realm. The reason I chose JHU specifically is one, it's a practice-based program. I really wanted to have an opportunity to where I could put my skills to practice. So I really appreciate that practicum and internship environment that I'm in now, and being in my third year. And then also it's close to home. I was born and raised in Maryland. So being able to still, you know, connect with my family and my friends was a very important part. And then just looking at the faculty, there's a wide range of faculty, just in terms of gender, race, you name it. And I really wanted to be able to see how all of those differences manifest in the space of counseling. And then obviously the reputation of Johns Hopkins, it being a prestigious research university, and research in itself was something that also drew me to JHU. So really just narrowing in on that and being able to get research experience as someone who wants to go into a doctoral program was something that was a really attractive thing for me. So in looking at the program highlights, first of all, with CSI and me being the president, our mission for CSI is to promote scholarship, research, professionalism, leadership, advocacy, and excellence in the field of counseling, and just really having high attainment in pursuit of academic and clinical excellence for the profession. So that is a long-winded way of saying, you know, we're a counseling honor society, and there's, of course, a GPA minimum requirement that we all have to maintain. And in CSI, there are different aspects, such as the events and initiatives that really foster a communal space where students can connect with each other on various workshops, whether that be PhD applications, like I mentioned, and preparing for that process, or APA. There's an APA workshop that we had last school year. There are different organizations that partnered with us in the past that we've been connected to, for affinity groups in terms of like communities of color, LGBTQ plus, and really, you know, kind of broadening our scope of where we engage and how we engage. And then just beyond with in connecting to what's here, just having idea of growing beyond the SOE campus is something that I think is really important, in being able to engage with other programs and subjects, topics beyond SOE. And then also the resourceful faculty, if there's ever a question I have, there's someone that can answer it, or they can point me to who can. So I think that that's really something that I've grown to appreciate. That there's always an answer or a way through a situation. And then the cohort model of being able to connect with students that I've come into the program with, and I can see their growth and they can see my growth, and we can connect on that, is something that I think is a wonderful part of the program. And just going to this last part, for prospective students, preparing for the interview is a really important piece of it. There's a writing piece. I don't know if that's still the case, but I assume it would be. But that writing piece of it is something that is worth preparing for. And then practicing self-care during the admissions process, it can be very anxiety inducing, overwhelming. So really just taking care of yourself within that to be able to submit the best application possible. And lastly, the fact that GPA is not the end all be all. In this in school in general, there's a big emphasis of getting good grades and excelling in the academics, but especially with this program, you all would find very quickly that the person that you are and your ability to self-reflect and look within and beyond is going to be a very critical part of your success. And looking beyond the GPA is one way to do that. So that is my biggest piece of advice for prospective students.
Thank you so much, Keenan. I appreciate it because that was a perfect segue for me to jump into talking about the admissions process. So thank you to Keenan and Aishwarya, and also all of my faculty colleagues for sharing all of your experiences today, experience and insight on our counseling program. I'm going to, again, wrap things up by concluding our program, talking about some of the admissions and financial aid components. And again, I am a very, I'll say, regimented, organized person. So for me, it's what's the next step? And for all of you attending today, that next step that I would highly encourage all of you is, now that you have a good base of knowledge on our MS in counseling program, I would encourage all of you to connect with me one-on-one. After our program today, I'll be sending a follow-up email to all of you, and I would be overjoyed to set up a one-on-one appointment with you, a half hour, either via Zoom or phone, to talk more specifically about each of your circumstances and progressing forward with the admissions process. I will say this numerous times today, but the big takeaway for me is that you are never, ever going through this process alone. Reach out, stay connected. And again, a great first step is connecting with me if you have not done so already, and I would love to chat more. So jumping in with the admissions requirements, there is one application that students will fill out. If you've been following the School of Education for, I'll say multiple weeks now, you might have noticed that our website has recently been changed. Our website underwent a total renovation within the last few weeks. And now if you navigate through the admissions pages, at the very bottom of every admissions page, there's a large gold block that says apply now, and that takes you right to the application. The application is completely online, and as you can see, there is an $80 application fee that students will submit when they complete their application. We do ask for official transcripts from all institutions that you've attended, all post-secondary institutions. I do want to emphasize the all there, because I think a lot of students, when they apply, they'll submit official transcripts for, where they completed their undergraduate degree. Please note that we are looking for any institution that you've attended. So if you did have any previous transfer credits, we would in that case reach back out and say, hey, can you send us that other missing transcript? So just to kind of prepare you for that ahead of time, we are looking for official transcripts from all institutions. As far as official transcripts go, essentially what that means is we're looking for the transcript to be sent from that home institution directly to us at Johns Hopkins in the School of Education admissions office. So students, if you do have a copy yourself, I'm sorry, that does not constitute as an official transcript. You would reach out to that home institution to request it. And the easiest way to do that a lot of times is sending them virtually. Most schools, if you just Google the school's name and then type official transcript after it, it will take you through the school's registrar's office. And we are electronic partners with most institutions that the entire process can be done virtually. We do accept physical paper official transcripts as well. Those can be sent to us via mail. But the piece that I'd like to stress there is you want to make sure that transcripts are sent to the Johns Hopkins School of Education. In terms of receiving transcripts, every school, as well as even the undergraduate portion of Johns Hopkins, has its own admissions office. So I want to stress, just to make sure that you are sending transcripts directly to us at the School of Education when you go through that process. There is an essay, 2 to 3 pages in length, that you'll submit when you apply. And logging in onto our website, you can see those essay prompts listed now if you have not started your application already. You'll also submit a current resume or CV and 2 letters of recommendation. I get a lot of questions with letters of recommendation when students are applying. And ideally, we would like to see at least one academic letter of recommendation. You know, you're applying to a graduate program, so our faculty evaluators would like to hear from someone that can talk about your skill set as a student, your ability to conduct research, scholarly writing, etc. So ideally, if possible, at least one academic letter of recommendation. Or I've talked to other students in the past where, you know, I graduated years ago and I don't know if I can find anyone. Ideally, you want someone to be able to highlight your skill set as a student when applying. I say this jokingly, but also still very serious. You know, this application process is not a time to be humble. You know, you want to show our faculty your capacity and abilities to the highest amount. So, you know, ideally, you want to reach out and ask the two best recommenders to write those letters on your behalf when you're applying. As you can see, we do not require the GRE within our application, and I can hear all of your cheers of cheers and applaud from afar. Again, we don't require the GRE when you're applying. And as you can see, if you are selected, there is a structured virtual group interview that is required, and there'll be a set date that will be scheduled for that after applications have been evaluated. For any students that have completed any coursework outside of the United States, first, there is an English language proficiency requirement. If you've completed at least 2 years of coursework in the US, there is a waiver, a TOEFL waiver that you'll see in the application. So if you've, again, completed 2 years of coursework in the US, component through either an IELTS score or a TOEFL score. So again, there's those pieces. As far as international transcripts go, we do look for a course by course evaluation of any international transcripts. So for those, please do not have them sent directly from the institution to us. If you use that website that you see on the screen, there is a list of third-party agencies that we work with to evaluate transcripts. WES is probably the largest and most frequently used. SpanTran is another one. I believe that there's 7 different agencies on that website, but essentially the process would go that you would request the transcript to be sent to that agency, and then they would complete a course-by-course evaluation of the coursework you've completed and then send it to us on your behalf. So process is a little bit different for any type of international credentials compared to anything done domestically in the US. As far as overall cost goes, you can see the cost here on the screen for face-to-face courses is $1,100 per credit or $3,300 per course. There's also a $175 per semester registration fee that students pay. And as we've already talked about, when you're applying, there's an $80 application fee as well. Lastly, to round off my section of the presentation today, talking a little bit about scholarships. There is a limited number of partial need-based scholarships for counseling application for federal student aid, but other than doing that component, if you are able to, the review for scholarships is done automatically behind the scenes. I also strongly encourage students, there's a whole external scholarship portion of our website, and those are some great resources. I think probably the biggest that you'll see on that list is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but there are a number of other external funding opportunities as well to help you fund your cost of education with us here at the School of Education. So we're going to transition now to the question and answer session. I would be remiss before we do that if I did not say that the application is now live for the upcoming fall semester. So for the counseling application, the application opened back in September 1st, and you have until January 5th to submit a completed application. So having all of those components in. So January 5th is the important date to keep in mind. So again, we'll transition a little bit to our question and answer session. I'm happy to moderate questions as we go through. So for my faculty colleagues as well as students, I'll read out the question and feel free, whomever would like to jump in and answer, by all means, well, feel free to do so. So our first question is about prerequisites. Are there any type of prerequisites that students would need to have to be able to apply to the counseling program?
Just a bachelor's degree, we don't have any prerequisites for our students. It would be helpful to have some experience in helping others and interpersonal skills. A lot of the people who apply to our programs are psychology majors, but we don't officially have a prerequisite because we're going to be helping you and facilitating your counselor identity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bonner. I apologize. I should have shared. So we have quite a few questions that came in. We'll have about 10 minutes to answer as many questions as possible. But for anyone who did submit questions and we aren't able to answer them today, I am going to keep up our contact information for both myself and Miss Kiana Napper, the Senior Academic Program Coordinator for the counseling program. So you'll have that information handy on your screens as we go through our Q&A section today if we're not able to get to your question. So next, is there a research or thesis component for the clinical mental health program?
No, there is not, but you do have to pass a counselor preparation exam, the CPCE. So you do have to pass that exam in order to graduate from the program. You would take that exam in your last year, either the fall semester of your last year or the spring semester of your last year, and of course, passing all of your courses.
Thank you, Dr. Bonner. Next, if a student completed any type of counseling courses in their undergraduate studies, is it possible to transfer any undergraduate counseling courses to satisfy program requirements for our master's degrees?
That would be no, unless it is introduction, and Dr. Young can talk more about this. Go ahead and talk about school counseling students, Dr. Young.
Sure. But I concur with Dr. Bonner. That would be a no. The exception is the course that I spoke about, which is the exceptionalities course. It is a course that is required by the Maryland Department of Education. So it would be an elective course. What we do is to have students to send a copy of their undergraduate transcript. In most cases, not all, most cases, if you have previous teaching experience, which is not a requirement for the school counseling program, you might have taken an exceptionalities course. That course can satisfy the requirement for the Maryland Department of Education. However, the student still needs to take another elective in lieu of that exceptionalities course. So just as Dr. Bonner was referencing with the clinical mental health, we do not transfer undergraduate courses to satisfy graduate degree requirements.
Thank you, Dr. Young and Dr. Bonner. Next, it looks like we got a few questions that focus around switching from part-time to full-time. Is a student able to switch their status part-time to full-time? And if a student is part-time, does that mean that their internship or practicum component would also be part-time in hours as well?
Okay, two parts to that. They would need to talk to their advisors, and I mentioned the advisors beforehand. They need to talk to their advisor about their program plan. Anytime they have to change their program plan, if there are any changes with the program plan, they need to be talking to their advisors because all courses are not offered every semester. So there needs to be constant communication with their advisors. With the practicum and internship components, those are components where they get the 100 hours or the 600 hours, and that's it. We tell our students this, and I didn't say this before in the presentation. I didn't want to get too far into it. When you start taking the internship component in the program, it is like a full-time job. You could be at a site for 20 to 30 hours. I can let Ashwarya and Keenan tell you all about that. that really you're going to have to take your time in this program. It is going to be a rigorous amount of demands on your mind, your body, and your soul, and you need to be prepared for a program like this. It is not like just getting grades and taking tests. It's about your whole person because you are the instrument in counseling.
Great advice. Thank you, Dr. Bonner. Is it possible for a full-time student to take more than 4 courses a semester to finish their degree early?
Do you want me to answer? Does somebody else want to answer? I have an answer.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dr.
we all have an answer.
Yeah. Well, I would say to all of you that remaining on track helps you to receive the full experience. It's rare that I can think of in most mental health programs in general for students to completely try to complete their degree program more quickly. And I'm only speaking from clinical mental health counseling because the reason why that's necessary is that, again, Dr. Bonner mentioned that the courses they're not offered every single semester per se, and we want you to stay within your cohort and move at that pace to not become overwhelmed. So that's my response in terms of clinical mental health counseling.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. I concur with you. However, it's not uncommon for school counseling students to request to maybe increase the number of courses that they're taking. However, you must complete the courses according to this course sequence. And there are certain courses that require prerequisites. So you cannot select courses that are most convenient for your personal schedule. But if you have, a compelling reason to do so, and oftentimes, again, we receive that from individuals who are either para-educators or teachers who may want to accelerate the program, I suggest that you speak to your advisor. You must complete a program plan, and if you have any changes within your program plan, you must update the program plan. Your advisor must sign it, and a copy is given to Ms. Napa.
And I would even add to what Dr. Young is saying from a clinical mental health counseling standpoint. If you were going to increase your course load, it would be with an elective only. We only require 6 hours, which would be an equivalent to 2 courses for electives. But also being mindful that taking a full-time load at the graduate level looks very different than being an undergraduate student. The course load can be quite a bit of information for people to take in terms of what they have to do at home. So that is something you want to speak to your academic advisor about to even understand just how comprehensive the workload might be for a full-time study versus part-time study, and then trying to add additional courses on top of that.
Thank you, everyone. Dr. Young, I'm going to address our next question to you.
Okay.
Does the Reset initiative for school counselors lead to licensure to be a licensed mental health counselor as well?
Oh, that's a great question. Up on completion of the requirements for the Reset initiative, they are identical to the full-time and part-time course sequence that Dr. Bonner mentioned earlier. You complete a 60-credit program as if you were enrolled in any of the school counseling. The difference, don't forget, is the placement of the internship and the accelerated program, but all of the courses are the same. That's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Next, tying some questions together just about, let's say prerequisites and admission requirements. Is there any GPA cutoff that our faculty look for to evaluate applications? Is there a GPA minimum, or is there any specific undergraduate degree that a student ideally should have, or as long as they have a bachelor's degree, will that suffice? Are there any requirements in those regards for admission?
I believe I answered this before, that you can have any bachelor's degree. There are a lot of our students, like I said, we tend to attract more students from psychology many times, but you can have any kind of bachelor's degree. The cutoff is typically 3.0. If you have a GPA under 3.0, if it's at like 2.7, We will review your application and we'll review your personal statement and your recommendations, and you may get an interview, but it's not a guarantee. Typically that cutoff is at 3.0, but we do still look at GPAs under 3.0, and 2.7 is more like the total cutoff.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bonner. Next question, I'll direct this to Dr. Brown. For international students, are they eligible to sit for the licensure exam? Does law in the U.S. institute that only a citizen or green card holder or permanent resident can work through the licensure process, or is that able to be completed as an international student?
I think it really depends on your status in terms of what you're seeking to do. So when people pursue this particular degree from another country, they sort of have to work with the Office of International Students and their academic advisor to sort of decide what their trajectory will look like in terms of career options. What I would also say is in the United States, each state gets to decide who gets to pursue licensure in that state. And so it really depends on your status and what you're looking to do once you've completed your degree program. One of the things I want to say is that we prepare you for licensure, but we don't require it as a part of our education program. So it is completely separate. It's not something that's required. Our accreditation body, we don't require, or it does not require you to have a license. People get to choose to become clinically licensed or certified or licensed as school counselors, but it's not required in the program. We just prepare you for that should you decide to choose to do so.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
And just to add to that, students can take the National Counselor's Exam. So we prepare you to take that National Counselor's Exam, which is the licensing exam for the state of Maryland. But there are different, like Dr. Brown said, states have different licensing exams. So there's the National Clinical Mental Health Counselor's Exam that you have to pass for a state like Virginia. So you want to pay attention to state law, talk to the Office of International Students to help you in this process too. We don't always have all of the answers, all of the details for everything, but we certainly know where to point you in the right direction and to facilitate your career growth.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bonner and Dr. Brown. And for our last question for today, just to tie a few together here, is there any benefit to applying before the application deadline of January 5th? And overall, how many students are there in both the clinical mental health counseling and school counseling program? How many total students are enrolled?
Okay, I know I can answer that question. I've answered many of them, but I know I can answer that question. We have approximately 270 students right now in the entire program, approximately. I don't quite remember the breakdown here. The majority of our students are clinical mental health counseling students. We have approximately, it's a pretty large student body. And what was the other part of the question? If you apply early, then it's a first come, first serve. So our interview process is pretty intricate. First, faculty have to look at the applications, and then after that, students are invited into a Zoom group interview where they are evaluated by faculty for a whole half day. There's also a writing sample involved in that. And from there, then faculty make decisions. So if you get your application in early, folks. So when you get your application in early, you will be the first reviewed, you will be the first invited in. So there is a benefit. The answer would be yes. I said all of that to say yes. There is a benefit, okay? Yes, do it early.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bonner. And thank you to all of my fellow faculty colleagues, our current students, for being here with us today. And again, sharing your expertise and your experiences on the counseling program. Thank you to all of our participants for being here and again, taking that first next step in your educational journey. Just to recap very quickly, again, feel free, I will be sending out an email. Feel free to register for a one-on-one appointment with me to chat more. We will be hosting more virtual information sessions throughout the course course of the semester on the counseling program. Feel free to come back and see us again. And most importantly, again, the application is open, active, and live. So feel free to jump in and get that application submitted as soon as possible in Dr. Bonner's words. Again, we appreciate you being here with us. Thank you on behalf of all my colleagues from the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Have a great day, everyone. And remember, again, you are never going through this process alone. Take care. Bye-bye.